Muy buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos al seminario del mes de septiembre de la Sociedad Mexicana de Físicos en Medicina, del ciclo de primavera-verano 2021. Esta tarde tenemos el honor de contar con la presencia del doctor Carmel Caruana, quien nos impartirá en el idioma inglés la ponencia titulada Medical Physics Leadership, Raising Our Profile Within and Outside Healthcare. Al final de la ponencia se tendrá un espacio de preguntas y respuestas. Antes de iniciar con el seminario, me gustaría presentarles la trayectoria académica y profesional del Dr. Caruana. A partir de este momento y en atención al ponente, me expresaré hacia él y a todos ustedes en el idioma inglés. Dr. Carmel Caruana is full-time professor and head of medical physics at University of Malta. He specializes in diagnostic and interventional radiology, radiation protection, medical devices, and legislation of medical physicists' role. Recognizing the importance of the education, training, and professional issues for the development of the medical physics profession, he has dedicated the last 20 years of his career to these issues. He has over 60 papers and innumerable conferences. He is the former chairperson of the Education and Training Committee of the European Federation of Organization of Medical Physics and lead author of the European Guidelines of the medical physics expert and policy statements of the education and training. He also contributed to the creation of the European School for Medical Physicists Experts in Prague. In 2020, he published the first ever book on leadership in medical physics entitled Leadership and Challenges in Medical Physics, a Strategic and Robust Approach. The Mexican Society of Physicists in Medicine would like to thank you again, Dr. Caruana, for your generously sharing your time and knowledge with us. With no further ado, the audience is all you, Professor.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. Today I would like to talk to you on a very important topic. We as medical physicists, we are very good scientists. We are very good medical device experts. We're very good in radiation protection and protection from other physical agents like ultrasound and strong magnetic fields and MRI. But the problem is that since we are a small profession, often we are not known outside our group. This is a normal thing for small professions. It's not something specific for medical physics, but it's important to realize that the problem exists so that we'll start solving it. We have to treat it like every problem that we have in physics. Okay, there's a problem that needs to be solved. Let's see how we're going to solve it. So the title of this talk today is Raising Our Profile Within and Outside Healthcare. We need to increase our profile both within the hospital itself. Okay, often medical physics departments are very small departments in hospital, and also outside healthcare, but to the general public. These two need to become more aware of what we do, because if they become more aware of what we do, the political pressure then will increase for the number of medical physicists to increase in hospitals. Introduction. One of the essential components of a strategic plan for any profession is a good publicity plan. Every profession today we live in a very complex world. Things are not so easy anymore. There's a lot of competition between professions. There's a lot of competition for finances. The world is changing all the time and very quickly. And we need a strategic plan to make sure that the profession not only survives, but also moves forward, develops more in this type of environment. And one of the very important things of a strategic plan is a publicity plan. And what I always say, essentially, this means that it's no good being excellent scientists and healthcare professionals if nobody knows about it. This is the same as you are producing some kind of product in the world. Okay, you have a factory and you're producing the best kind of food product or a drink, and you don't do any publicity, so nobody knows about it. It can be the best drink in the world. If nobody knows about it, nobody will buy it. And the same thing, we have to look at the same thing about professions. If nobody knows about the profession, nobody knows about what that profession does, and appreciates what that profession does for their own healthcare, there will not be pressure for more medical physicists to be employed and for more money to be invested in developing medical physicists. We need a plan to publicize the profession among the following target stakeholder groups. These are the groups which are most important for us. The general public. The general public has votes. Okay? If the general public who has votes and votes in elections don't know about us, how are we going to move forward? At least they need to know about us, that we exist.
Professor, sorry for interrupting, but we cannot see changing the slides.
I don't know. It's changing. It has changed on mine. I will move out of. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
For some reason, the full screen didn't work. So do you see introduction now?
Yeah, we can see the introduction.
Okay. So I leave it like this, because like this, it seems to be working. Essentially, so I will repeat there. We need a plan to publicize the profession among the following target stakeholder groups. The general public, I was saying, patients, who are obviously our biggest stakeholders, under healthcare professions, who are also our stakeholders. We need to help radiographers in what they do, the radiologists in what they do, oncologists in what they do. Health policy makers. Okay, there are many people out there in ministries of health who are who make policies, and these policies affect us, affect what we do. If they don't know about us, how are they going to include us when they are developing their policies? Hospital governance board. Every hospital has a governance board to govern the hospital. These people need to know that we exist. Potential future students. This is very important because the future students are the future of the profession. And finally, even politicians. I will present ideas on how one can do this for each group in turn. So I'm going to take every one of these groups, and I will give you ideas on how you can improve the profile of the profession with each particular group. Let's start with the general public. When we talk to medical people in the general public, we must project medical physicists to the public as medical equipment and radiation protection experts. First of all, notice I use medical equipment, not device. We know that the legal name is medical device, and we know it as medical device, but the ordinary man in the street does not know the word device. Okay? He knows the word equipment. So it's important. Why am I saying this? It's important that when we speak to the general public, we speak in a language that they understand. We don't use technical words which are obvious to us and which we understand, but which they don't understand. This is one way of, if you do this, is one way of creating a barrier. When we talk to the general public, and not that just the general public, but any audience, but in the case of the general public, it's more important because many of them will not have any background knowledge of hospitals and medicine. It's much more important to speak in ordinary, everyday language. We must project ourselves as medical equipment and radiation protection experts who have made it their life mission to help ensure the safety of the public and their families and friends by helping to reduce misdiagnosis, improve early disease detection, protect them from unnecessary radiation, help cure them of cancer and other things. When I talk to members of the general public, I never mention the word physics. I don't never mention it. Okay? When you talk physics to members of the general public, many of them, for them, Newton's laws of motion. Okay, so you don't talk physics to these people. Okay, you start talking, hey, what do we do? There's a lot of equipment in hospital, very expensive equipment in hospital, very complex equipment in hospital, some of it extremely complex, like MRI and CT scanners. To understand how to use this properly is not easy. Most people, even who use this equipment, have never read the technical manual. Many people haven't even read the user manual because it's complex and it's very difficult. And what we do is we help other professions and to ensure that they produce a better service and a safer service to the patient. We also have, apart from helping others, we also have our own specific duties, like to ensure quality control of the equipment. We help to ensure that the hospital buys the right equipment in the first place, not spends 100,000 euros on a piece of equipment, and then 3 weeks after we find that it's not the equipment that we really need. This has happened many times in the world. If they involve the medical physicist, this is less likely to happen. So the work of the medical physicist should start before the equipment is bought. What type of equipment should we buy? What specifications that equipment has to have so that it will do what we want it to do? Each national MP association, medical physics association, should have an attractive website. You find many national organizations, they don't have a website at all. Even in my own country, finally, the young people have started doing a website now. But today, without a website, you're nothing. And the website must explain our role, what we do in layman's language, I repeat, not in technical language. You might even have 2 sections of the website, one for the ordinary man in the street and one for doctors, radiographers, etc. So you can have even 2 sections with different language for each. You might have a strong section for patient information and advice. The amount of misinformation there is out there, for example, about radiation is unbelievable. Okay, and believe me, not just among laymen, even among the other healthcare professions. I mean, about a year ago, a nurse asked me whether, after people take an X-ray, whether they are radioactive. And this is a nurse. Okay, so you can imagine if a nurse has this concept in her brain, what the people in the street have. For them, if you mention nuclear medicine, and they hear the word nuclear, many of them, it's Chernobyl, it's atom bombs. I mean, so it's important to start educating the patients online, to make what I always say, make ourselves useful to the public. And the public will appreciate when you do things which are useful to them, not just trying to show off what you know, they will appreciate. Appoint a public relations officer. Every medical physics organization should have a public relations officer to always tell the public what the organization is doing. Okay, they should have a public engagement panel. For example, if you go to that website, the IPEM in the UK have a committee specifically for engaging with the public. So one should do this proactively, an ongoing manner. There should be somebody who spends quality time thinking of how to do this. Because it's not something that you just sit over a coffee, okay, I'll do this. I mean, it needs time, how to do it. That's something that it's a project in itself. How best to approach the public, what strategies to use to be effective in approaching the public. Issue press releases whenever there are new developments in imaging technology, radiation incidents, etc., anywhere in the world. And if you go to Wiki, it will show you how to write a press release. Okay, you send it to the newspapers. Often, many newspapers have nothing to print, and sometimes it's so obvious that they have nothing to print. If you see the papers these days, they print things which are worthless. You don't want to read it. But if you send something happens in the world or a new development in imaging technology that will improve, for example, the treatment of prostate cancer, that will be something that they will want to know. You give them things which they need, not something which you think that they should know, but hey, what do you want to know? The public relations officer should do some questionnaires, should go around interviewing some people. If we are to set up this website, what would you like there to be on it? Huh? Use the internet and social media. There's a Wikipedia article on medical physics over there. In fact, I had written most of that because about 10, 12 years ago, I realized that the article on medical physics was hopeless. There was just a short paragraph. I said, hey, this can't go on. How can people know about us if we're not even on Wikipedia? So I spent 2 days improving the website, most of it. I done it myself. Then others also improved it. Take part in science fairs, print T-shirts for children. And these are things which attract people. Patients. Link with patient organizations and offer your services as an advisor. There are many patient organizations. Many of them are at a loss on what to do. They would like to do some things for patient rights and to improve healthcare, but many of them do not have the knowledge to be able to do it. Okay, they do not have any idea that there are different types of CT scanners, for example. They don't have an idea. They just heard about there's something called a scanner and that's it. Okay, we need to start educating patients so that they know more about what hospitals offer, and this is a service that we can do in terms of medical devices. Involve patient representatives in your professional activities. For example, if you're going to develop some kind of policy statement, can you invite a patient and discuss it with him, and he will give you his opinion? Okay, even if it's simply asking you, hey, I don't understand what this is. Can you perhaps write it in better language that I can understand it? Because if you're going to put policy statement, write policy statement and put them on your website and people will download them, they need to understand what they are. And the patients need to understand what they are so that patients will know more what we do. They will ask for our services when they are in hospitals. We will ask for our advice when they are in hospital. Make sure that your clinical name tag states your profession. Often I see medical physicists going around the hospital with just their name there. And there's no medical physicist written under it. I mean, your name tag is not just saying your name, it's also an advertisement, continuous advertisement for your profession. Wear it in a prominent position when you are in the hospital cafeteria and another public place in the hospital where there are patients. Often when I have something medical physics and I go into a public cafeteria, you see people looking at even what I'm reading. I mean, they see pictures of equipment and sort of you can see them looking like that, what they are. So people are actually curious to know what we do. Trolleys carrying departmental equipment around the public areas of the hospital should have medical physics in large font size written on them. Sometimes I see medical physicists moving pieces of equipment from one part of the hospital to another, like test objects. Shouldn't there be medical physics written on the trolley? Because if you're moving the trolley from one side of the hospital to another, and you're meeting 100 patients or 100 members of the public on the way, those 100 people should see the words medical physics. If you have this on your trolleys, this is continuous advertising without you doing anything. You're just pushing the trolley from one place to another. All you have to do is spend half an hour once putting a proper sign on the trolley. You don't have to do anything anymore. Half an hour and you have advertisement for life. Other healthcare professionals. We must raise our profile with these people to teach as many healthcare professions as possible, not just radiologists and radiographers or oncologists And not only radiologists and radiographers, include especially nurses. Nurses are important as they are everywhere in the hospital. If they know about you, everybody will. Okay? If nurses know about you, everybody will, because they talk and they are everywhere in the hospital. Now I will show you a program that I do for nurses. Offer to speak at their meetings about topics of mutual interest. If you know, for example, that nurses don't know about a certain topic, if it's about, it can be radiation, it could be what is MRI, what is CT, what is CT scanner do, offer to give them a talk. Become associate members of their associations where this is possible. Many of their associations have associate members, they call it, in which even though you're not a nurse, you can still be a member, and if you go for their talks and meetings, go and promote yourself and ask questions and get to know each other over coffees and drinks, because like that people get to know about our profession more. Get medical physics students to join other healthcare professional students in common classes such as anatomy, physiology, ethics, healthcare management. For example, one of the first things I did when I started medical physics in Malta is I moved from the physics department. Believe it or not, that's what I did. Because the physics department is very far away from hospital. If I had stayed in the physics department, nobody would know about us. I moved to the Faculty of Health Sciences, where there are radiographers, nurses, physiotherapists, etc. There are about 12 professions there. So all these 12 professions know about medical physics. All their leaders know about medical physics because I'm on their board, the board of the faculty. Everybody knows that medical physics exists. And many professions know that it exists in Malta. The EFOM has a special interest group. It's called Biomedical Physics Education for Medical and Healthcare Professions in Europe. There are several publications. I showed them. I had set up this myself when I was chair of education and training because I realized that many people, for example, many physicists were teaching radiographers, not according to the needs of those radiographers. Okay, I remember when I started teaching radiographers, this was about 35 years ago. The first thing I did, I was coming from a physics department. First thing I did was I spent 2 months in the hospital taking x-rays. Not of people, obviously I couldn't take, it's not legally allowed to take of people, but I found every phantom possible, okay, and took x-rays of these because I wanted, and I used to go with the radiographers. I cannot teach radiographers before I know what their role is. It's not possible. How can you teach somebody when they don't know, you don't know exactly what they do? I can't teach them all the physics. I have to choose to teach them the physics which they need to be able to do their role properly. Use your professional email signature to advertise the profession. I will show you what I mean in a moment. Let me show you it, illustrate. For example, these are the papers that special interest group has published about this one now is, in fact, it has been published and it's not only online, it has been published. So I can remove that online. And we did, I remember I did about 120 case studies of physicists teaching healthcare professions in Europe, all across Europe, because I wanted to have an idea, a cross-section sort of what is happening out there. And we have produced a very good curriculum development model. I suggest that you look this up. It's again in Física, Médica, in the European Journal of Medical Physics. I can put this over here. So notice that doing this type of research is something which is publishable. Huh? For example, this one was first placed in the most downloaded list of articles for a few months. People wanted to know. This was the 5th place in the most downloaded list of all articles for over a year, I think. This one I don't know, I haven't checked yet. This is an online course that I do for registered nurses. We found that many registered nurses were not at ease in using medical devices. Many were afraid to use them, actually, because they knew that they weren't really prepared to use them properly. This is an international problem. In fact, there are a lot of papers published on this by nurses themselves. We also had the problem that the hospital wouldn't allow them to come for many hours at the faculty, so I produced an online course for them, so that which they can see at any time that they like. It's not one that they have to see at a particular time of the day. It's recorded, and so they can look it up whenever done, and they actually get even ECTS credits for this. They get 10 ECTS credits, which they can put on their CV. I also published this in the International Journal of Reliable and Quality E-Healthcare. I did it in 2012. And I have been doing this course since then, because people are still interested in it. This is what I mean by using your email signature as a publicity tool. When they were still allowing us at university to use large email signatures, I had this at the end. Look, first of all, our motto: medical physicists driving technology to advance healthcare, proactively protecting patients from ionizing radiation and other physical agents. Then the mission statement. So our motto here says, hey, look at what we do. So each email that I send out to whoever I send it automatically would get this. They are all curious to have a look at what it is. They're all curious about our mission statement. Okay, when I had become chair of education and training and of the EFOM for the European Federation, I realized that medical physicists as a profession didn't have a mission statement. At that time, even the primary school of my daughter had a mission statement, and we as a profession didn't have a mission statement. And one of the first things I did, I'm still very proud of this, that I developed with others a first mission statement for medical physicists and medical physics experts. Please use it. Okay, and if you want to develop it further, go ahead. But we need to tell people, look, this is what we are here for, this is what we do. This is a technical one, which is more useful for addressing radiologists, etc., okay, and hospital workers. But you can also write another one for the general public, which would be more understandable for them. Then, since in Europe the medical physicists are required by an EU directive. At that time, it was 9743 Euratom. Now it's changed. There's another directive, okay, 201359 Euratom. But I put it down, and I still have it now. I have changed the name of the directive, but it's still there. So whoever I send this now will read that, hey, there's a EU directive which says that there must be medical physicists in hospital. The EU, when people read it in their brain, they see EU considers our presence so important that it has made it a legal requirement. Then I also had put a list of journals, of medical physics journals. This I had put it both for my students and even for medical physicists in Europe, so that they will know when they want to do a literature search, they will look up my email, an email of mine, and they would find it. Now I had to remove this because the university is not allowing us to have such big email lists anymore. But I remember when I used to send this, I used to get many emails back thanking me for medical physicists for putting this list here. But it also shows to other professions, hey, our activities and publications, look what a dynamic profession we are. Look what a lot of publications that we do. Many people out there don't know that we publish so much. We actually publish quite a lot as a profession. Health policy makers, involve them in your planning. If you're planning to do something from the profession, have an interview with them, seeing what they think. You don't have to follow whatever they do. or say, because not all of them are capable of giving good advice. But the fact that you show them respect, asking for their opinion, it makes a difference. You'll find all kind of people. You find people who welcome this, people who see it as a waste of time. Okay, you find all, and something, or people in between. You find all type of. I mean, but this, if you don't try, you cannot know what is going to happen. And it's important, I think, to educate them. For example, often when I used to go to Ministry of Health officials at the beginning, I used to take a PowerPoint with me on my laptop, about 6 or 7 slides only, not more than that, to tell them quickly what medical physics is, because many of them wouldn't even have heard about us. One of the problems I remember I used to face is these policymakers, appointed by politicians, are changing all the time. So you have this PowerPoint for this person, you say, finally I have a policymaker who knows what we are. You go 2 months afterwards and you find that he's changed. He's not there anymore. So you have to be patient and be ready to do this several times. It took me about 20 years till I finally convinced people that, hey, we need to take medical physics seriously. 20 years of PowerPoints and discussions. But finally, you arrive there. I'm telling you this, not to give up, because sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm really giving up on these people. They don't even try sometimes. But little by little, it accumulates. And at a certain point, you cross a threshold and things become better. Inform them whenever something happens anywhere in the world, which you can use to show the importance of the profession. For example, when there was an accident in radiation in oncology some years ago, first thing I did was send an email to all the people in the ministry. Look what happens with the sentence was, look what happens when there are no medical physicists. Because that's what had happened. There wasn't a proper medical physicist. And that's why the accident happened. So when these things happen, speak about it. Don't be shy, because it's your right to speak about your profession. Whether people listen or not, it's their problem. But it's your right to speak out. Sometimes the seeds that you throw fall on fertile ground and they grow. And sometimes you find people who are less interested. But again, I always say that's their problem. In my opinion, people who are not interested in improving these things in this world are sometimes I don't know why they are there in the first place. Governance boards. Get yourself on your hospital governance board. If at all possible, the governance board is often filled with people, politicians, lawyers, managers, administrators, medical people, but many of them are not many, practically all of them know very little about medical devices. They know that a CT scanner exists and an MRI scanner exists, but when it comes to distinguishing between one CT scanner and another, not all CT scanners are the same, not all have the same properties, which if we're going to spend €1 million on a new CT scanner, doesn't that entail that we have a real expert with us, a real medical physicist who's an expert on these things to give them advice? Know who the members of the board are. Often, you ask many medical physicists who are the members of the board of the hospital. Nobody knows. Okay, so perhaps one would know, but how are you going to increase your influence in the hospital if you don't even know who the people who are taking decisions are? Offer your advice to board members regarding medical device technology, physical agents, radiation protection, legislation, etc. So offer your advice. They might take it, they might not, again. But if you don't offer it in the first place, you never know. And if you offer it once and twice, 3 times, at one point, you will finally reach people who say, perhaps we should better them. The last time we bought a piece of equipment, it wasn't exactly what we wanted. Perhaps we should have taken advice. Okay, so this is the way to move forward. potential future students. These are our future. Without more students, the profession cannot move forward. The profession will not exist if we have young people to take it on. So go to careers fairs. There are many careers fairs run by universities, by high schools. Go and talk to them. I tell you, these young people are very interested in medical equipment. As I'm writing in the second bullet point there, and if you go to secondary schools, they all see CT scanners and MRI and ECGs on TV. Okay, go and explain to them how they work a bit and what one can do with them and what we medical physicists do to ensure that they are used to improve their health. Go and tell them. Many of them are still learning Newton's laws, only in their physics. How can we attract people to physics if we just teach them the physics of 300 years ago, when they see such high tech on TV? This is what we must teach them, and medical physicists are excellent. Medical physics gives you excellent opportunity to do this. The hospital is full of super equipment. If you take a CT scanner or an MRI, you won't have any equipment like that, even in a university physics department. Where are you going to find an instrument as sophisticated as an MRI in the physics department? Very few. So you can show them that one of the reasons that I had moved from physics to medical physics, because originally I had started doing physics and then moved to medical physics, was that I saw the hospital as a big lab, as a big physics lab. Okay, there's so much equipment in there, amazing equipment. It's unbelievable, the equipment that you have in the hospital. That I can tell you can spend a whole career and not even know 10% of it. 10% of it. There's so much to see and learn, and which one can involve himself in. Invite students and teachers to your department. Invite some students and teachers to your department. They will love it. To see a CT scanner, I know sometimes it's difficult because there are always patients, and you might have to invite them in the evening, but students will be willing to come in the evening to see a CT scanner in action. Of course they will, especially many students who have never seen a piece of real equipment in their lives, except on TV. Offer small medical physics projects to secondary school teachers. This is something that can also be done. If you have a gymnasium, for example, a high school, where they've got perhaps some enthusiastic physics teachers, okay, don't try to teach 20 gymnasiums. Find one or two only. It's better like that. And work on them, work with them. Because if you manage to attract 10 students from each of them, the gymnasium per year, you have 20 students per year. Okay, the teachers will get to know you, and the teachers will know about medical physics, because many physics teachers don't know about medical physics. They don't know what we do. Okay, they know that there's something called medical physics, but they don't really know what we do. So how can they help us attract people to our profession? I think it's, in my opinion, it's also important that we revise the way we attract people to our profession. In my case, for example, at the moment, the traditional way of having a master's in medical physics is to attract people from physics or engineering. I have found that in the last years, this wasn't working anymore because there weren't enough students in physics and engineering, and that's happening the whole world over practically. Many students don't want to study complex things, and I had to do something else about it because I wasn't getting any students. So I started my own course, and it's called Physics, Medical Physics and Radiation Protection. And it's a bachelor's course. So they do bachelor's, and then they can do the master's after. But I have my own students now. I don't rely on the physics department or engineering department anymore. And this has been very good for the physics department too, because I didn't just do it medical physics and radiation protection. I didn't want that, because I want that medical physics and physics help each other to both improve. And in fact, it has helped the physics, because I have doubled the number of people taking this physics at university, at my university. And I don't want all these people to go to medical physics. So they don't have to all go to medical physics. And some of them might go into physics. So sometimes you can attract people into physics via medical physics. This is the way to look at things in a positive way, find ways, symbiotic ways, where physics and medical physics can help each other to have more students for both. By the way, I tell you, I have doubled the number of physics students in the physics. At the political level, remember, local and national politics is important. If possible, involve yourself in political activities. Now, I know that we physicists hate politics, okay? We are people who try to work with our brains, who try to be as logical as possible and as rational as possible in what we do. And unfortunately, as you know, politics isn't always rational wherever you go. And but politics is a very important and necessary human activity. Human activity is very important for the development of society. And today, sometimes I tell to myself that I made a mistake, that when I had opportunities earlier on in my life to go into politics, not politics with a big P, I don't want to be president of a country, because that will mean that I won't be able to do any medical physics then. Okay, but go into politics to help politicians improve the policies, and for politicians to get to know about medical physics. I think it would have made certain things easier if earlier on in my career I had done that. I don't think I had the time, because I was on my own. Remember, in my case, I started medical physics in Malta on my own, where nobody knew about it. But I think today, if I encourage the young people, now we are quite a number of medical physicists here, and I encourage them to involve themselves in political activity, because that's the way to push the profession forward, also to politics. I mean, politics, I know sometimes politics has a bad name in terms of corruption and things like that, but not all politicians are corrupt. There are many politicians who also have a positive view of politics, and they use politics to try to improve society. You can work with that type of people. Engage with regional and international healthcare organizations. There are regional organizations, international healthcare organizations. Immediately before this talk, I was talking to Mariana a bit, and she was saying that there will be some people from other countries outside Mexico, and I said that this is important. I think it's very important now and she also was thanking me for taking part in this, and I told her I feel it's my duty. I'm not just a Maltese medical physicist. We should start looking at ourselves now as a global family of medical physicists, that we help each other wherever we go. At the moment, I'm happy that I have many medical physics students, so that I will have extra, because there are countries in Europe that don't have enough medical physicists. I would like to export some to them and help them in the process, and perhaps have some of them even coming back to Malta then and bringing back some technology back with them. So I think it's important now to have a global perspective, not just a perspective of your hospital or of your country, a global perspective of what we should be doing. Finally, a take-home message. Each one of us is the profession. Many of us are always saying the association should do something about this. The association should try to improve do marketing of our profession. I think of course, the association has to do, and there should be, as I said at the beginning, a public relations officer to do this, and perhaps one should be for a public and one should be for improving the relationship with the other healthcare professions. Okay, but ultimately it's up to each one of us. First of all, you must be proud of your profession. You cannot convince others if you are not first convinced yourself. You must ask yourself, hey, what am I doing as a medical physicist? Okay, why is society paying me to be a medical physicist? And why should society pay me from their taxes to be a medical physicist? What good am I doing for society in return? You must think about these things, and it must be clear in your mind that if somebody asks you, hey, what is a medical physicist? What do you do? You don't tell him, wait, I will have to think about it. How am I going to tell you? Hey, you must know like that. You must be able to explain what we do, and quickly in a few minutes, and convince that person in a few minutes over a drink, over a coffee. You only have 15 minutes to do it. You don't have 3 hours. Okay, or if you're at a meeting of some sort and somebody tells you, what are you? And you say, medical physicist. What is that? You must be able to answer in 5 minutes, so that, and perhaps give him a website where he can look things further. But in those 5 minutes, you must sell the profession to that person. It's a question of selling the profession. Okay, convincing the other person, hey, this is something interesting here. I want to look it up. This will be useful for me when I go to hospital. If I look up the website of this organization, and perhaps on the website there could be a place where people can ask questions and medical physicists can answer. Notice, these are all ideas. In fact, that's a good idea. I'll write it down here. Okay. Be a good ambassador and champion for the profession, and encourage your colleagues to be so too. We must be proactive all the time, that we are good ambassadors for our profession. We are all the time part of, say, I always tell people that 5% of your brain, use 5% of your brain for the marketing of the profession and for the strategies for the profession. Okay? Not just do the science. The science is important, that obviously it's what we do. Okay, and ensuring that the equipment in hospitals used safely and effectively. But you must also have 5% of your time to proactively, hey, what am I going to do today to push my profession a bit? Okay, can I give it 10 minutes of my time this? Okay, if I'm in the cafeteria and an opportunity arises, somebody is asking me what medical physicist is, do I have 10 minutes to tell that person? Because if that person then goes into the pub on Friday and tell them, oh, I met this guy in hospital, he says medical physics. I asked him, what the hell is medical physics? And he was telling me, and it was quite interesting. I mean, you convince one person and he will convince many others, starting from his family, because I'm sure he'll tell his family, and each time they meet about that he will be showing off what he knows what medical physicist is. Ultimately, it all depends on each one of us. If we all do our little bit, it adds up. So if each one of us does a bit, it adds up, becomes something big. Get out of the office and be part of the world out there. I find sometimes medical physicists who feel very at home, sheltered in their office, but that's not the real world. People will not get to know about you and what you do if you're enclosed in an office. We are a great profession, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Now let's make sure that everybody else knows. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Caruana, for this great talk. And we have a couple of minutes of question and answer. And if anyone in the audience has a question, please click the raising hand button. And if anyone has a question.
Please go ahead if you have questions, even particular problems that you have in your department. For example, suppose you have a problem in your department, how to market. Perhaps we can have a discussion here and people can give you ideas on what to do.
I'm going to start with the first question, Dr. Carmona. From your experience, what is the best path or way to construct a medical physics role in a country that this area is barely created or not well known by non-medical physics people?
Well, I will give you my own experience. When I started, tried to start medical physics in Malta, the biggest problem is that nobody knew that it even existed. And by nobody, I mean nobody in hospital, nobody in the ministries of health, okay? And I had to start doing something about it. Because I realized that if nobody knows about it, then how am I going to get money to start it? Okay. Fortunately, I was fortunate that at one point the EU put medical physics in EU law. And when I saw this was an important, a very important opportunity. The first thing I did was I involved myself in EFOMP, in the European Federation, because I knew that if I were to stay on my own in Malta, with whom am I going to discuss? There was nobody to discuss with.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I did was I involved myself in EFOMP. And I wanted to move ahead in EFOMP so that I will get to know more and more and more about the experiences of others. And the first thing I did was I tried to find something which the rest of the officers of EFOMP didn't know anything about. And I found that the best thing was education and training. They were all giving a lot of attention to science, and nobody knew what a learning outcome is. Nobody knew what the guidelines of the EU were on education. Nobody knew what the difference between knowledge, skills, and competence. Nobody knew. And I said, okay, so this is the way forward. And then I was again lucky that about 2 years afterwards, the EU wanted us to do a project about medical physics education. And the only person who knew how to write learning outcomes was myself. So I ended up writing the document myself, and this was the document European Guidelines on the Medical Physics Expert. And the education and training chapter and the role development chapter were written by myself, and I helped also in the others. So this is the way I started. Then once I was quite established on the European scale, then I could, in Malta, I could tell them, look, when people look at you, you tell them about medical physics and they look at you, what the hell is this guy? And I could tell them, hey, I am on the European there's a European Federation of Medical Physics. Okay, I am on the board at Dan, and I've wrote the syllabus for Dan, and then their ears start picking up, sort of thing. So, this is how things developed. You have to look for these opportunities. Okay, don't try to do it on your own. On your own, you will not manage because you'll be on your own, surrounded by bigger professions. Nobody knows what you are. Some professions might even try to downgrade you, okay, because they, it's the nature of people. You find people who are positive and help you, some people who are not so positive and are a threat and affect you. So being on your own is one way of failing. You have to increase your, I wouldn't say your army, okay, but it has to be your strategic group in life. Your peer group has to increase, and it has to reach a big enough for you to feel very confident in what you're going to do. So the first thing is to build yourself, okay? The first thing is to build yourself. And then then it becomes easier. I'm not saying that it becomes simple. It's always a struggle moving forward, and you move forward not Don't say you're going to move at high speed. It doesn't happen that way. You move 1 inch at a time, okay? One centimeter at a time. But in the long run, it works. Now I have the profession is established in Malta. It's legally established. I have one of the highest number of medical physicists per capita in the world. And with this BSc that I have set up, I will have the highest number of medical physicists per capita in the world, definitely. Just wait for 2-3 years till they graduate and they move. And this is from zero. I started from zero, but I didn't happen in 5 years. It happened 30 years, over 30 years, or even more. In fact, a bit more, even more. So I'm telling you, don't expect quick results, because sometimes people expect quick results. The result will happen in the long term, but you have to look at it a long term. You have to be patient and move little by little, slowly. One thing at a time, one thing at a time. As more and more you increase your confidence, more and more people get to know you, and you find more and more ways for people to get to know you and to advertise the profession and what we do. And in the long run, it worked. And I tell you, if it has worked in a small island in Malta, where you are totally isolated, I can't even cross a border where there'll be a medical physicist here, because there's the sea wherever I go. Okay, so thank God today you have the internet, and the internet has made an enormous difference. When I started, the internet didn't exist. So even to get to know about medical physicists, I had to go for a conference. To learn anything, I had to learn that diagnostic reference level exists. I had to go to a conference because there was nobody to talk to. So, but today we're moving forward. And this is the way to do it, guys. Don't expect quick results, because if you expect quick results, but you can be quicker today with social media. You can be quicker, okay? But at the same time, don't expect things to become so easy, to come very quickly. Life is not like that in whatever you do. It's not just medical physics. When you're going to start something new in society, whatever you do, it's an uphill struggle. And it's the people who are ready to go for the long run, they say in English, that actually make it. Those people who want quick fixes and quick results will work a lot at the beginning. They see that no results are coming after a year, and they give up and stop. Those people don't achieve. Okay, next question, please.
Thank you. We still have a couple of minutes.
Yes, we can go on. I have to leave at about, on my case here, it's about 8:10. I have to leave, please, because somebody's coming to pick me up.
Yeah, we receive another question from the audience. What are the extra knowledge or skills that a medical physicist must have to be integrated in a multidisciplinary medical environment?
Okay. Now this is it's not really related to this topic, which is marketing of the profession. But at the same time, it's a very important question. And I think the biggest thing is to get out of your office. Get out of that office. Go down and talk to the radiographers. Try to make friends with them. Okay, not all of them will welcome you. There are people who will welcome you, people who are not. There are people who might see you as a threat, because in some areas you know much more than they do. But this isn't a good attitude either, because then as radiographers, they will know certain things much more than I do as a physicist. So I don't understand this. This is why there has to be a team. Okay. As a physicist, I know certain things much more than radiographers, and the radiographers, as radiographers, know certain things much more than me as a physicist. And the radiologist knows certain things much more than me as a physicist. But this is something positive, in the sense that I like talking to radiographers and radiologists, because I learn something. Okay, and they will learn from me in return. Huh? They learn from me in return. And this is the way to look at it. Go down, get out of the office and down. I mean, even if you find people that try to brush you off, don't let them brush you off. You want to move ahead, you move ahead. You don't allow people to put you down. This is important in life. You have a vision for yourself, set a vision for yourself, and move in that direction. I can tell you I had a lot of people trying to create trouble for me, really, and stopping me, and it's not going to change. It's the world we live in, and it's not just a problem of medical physics. It's a problem of many things. Okay, but the important thing is not to give up. Okay, and to be tough, and you say, look, nobody's going to stop me. Okay, I'm going to achieve this. Thank you. Ultimately, what I mean to say, it's a personal decision. It's a personal decision, okay? And you have to work on your own psychology. How am I going to make myself tougher psychologically? That's why the book that I published, and I suggest that you read it. By the way, if you go to buy it, and you go you have to go to the ebooks website of the IOPP, the Institute of Physics of the UK. Put down Caruana 50 in the token, and you will get 50% discount, okay, for hearing this talk. So write it down, please. Caruana, CARUANA 50, and you get a 50% discount, whether you buy the hard copy or the soft copy. Okay, if you can't find the link, because they are improving this online bookshop all the time, just send me an email and I will send you the link with all the details. Okay, and you can send it to everybody. And remember, put down this Caruana 50 and you'll get 50% discount automatically. But in that book, I've written a lot of the experiences that I had. Okay, and not just my experiences, but even experiences of other people like me in Europe and even across the world that I have discussed over coffees and drinks, and the problems that we face and how we save them. And I wrote there so that you won't have to go through the many years of mistakes that I made, because when you're on your own, you make many mistakes. Okay, along the way, you learn from your mistakes. But why should you have to do this? Every one of us has to do the same. So buy this book, read it, and automatically you will save about 15 years of what I had to do. Okay, that's why the books are the experiences of others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have another question.
Where are we?
What is the best way to work hand by hand with patient organizations?
That's a good question, and I wish I had direct experience of it. I tell you, I wish, because it's something that it has been on my mind for the last 12, 13 years to do in Malta. But the problem is, I still haven't found the time. Since most of the things I do here in Malta, I do myself, although the young people are taking over now. So, and the way I look at it, as the number of people increase, I'm increasing the army, okay, to be able to do these things. This will be possible. But I know, for example, there are organizations for cancer patients, for example. Okay, these people don't know what they know that they get radiation. They don't know what radiation is. They don't know how radiation acts to kill the cancer. But if you start from there, for example, from cancer organizations, it's already a big one, okay? Because then they usually talk to others. So you go to go to Google this evening, type in patient organizations in Mexico, okay, or in Mexico City, or wherever you are living, and they will start coming up. That's the first thing to do. First, you need to know that they exist and where they are. If they have a website, what is their contact number, okay? Then don't try to go to 6 of them immediately. Find the first one that you know most about. So if you're a radiotherapy physicist, is there one for oncology patients? I already know a lot about that. So I will write to them and offer and tell them about who you are. Don't write a letter which is 50 pages long, because nobody reads it. It cannot be more than 1 page, where you introduce yourself, you say what you do, and that you know that your patients are involved in radiation, for example, and that you are ready to give talks to their patients or their members and suggest 1 or 2 topics and tell them if they have other topics, they can suggest them. Start with that and see what happens. This is the way to start. Okay. That's the introduction. Then tell them also that if you are that you'll be ready to meet them if they want to meet. So you set up an appointment and they will start to get to know you personally. This is a very good done. And when you get to know them, if possible, try not to get them in their office. Meet them in their office. Sometimes meeting over a drink, okay, makes all the difference. Okay, so if you invite them for a drink and tell them, let's meet so that we get out of our office a bit and go over the drink. Sometimes this works even more. It's not just in medical physics, it works in everything. I mean, even students who send me an email, for example, that they might be interested to come in medical physics, I never ask them to come to my office at university. Never. I always meet them in a bar over a beer. Okay, I always meet them over.
The best way to explain.
Okay, over a bar, over a beer, because like that they get to know you as a person. They start getting to trust you. Hey, this guy knows what he's doing. Okay, this is a good course to go for. You know, one of the many things that students have on their minds is that they do not know what the course entails. They are not sure whether the people running the course and the lecturers will be nice people. Not all lecturers and professors are nice in this world. So this will be on their mind, especially if they've had some bad experience. So if you start the relationship in this way, it's amazing how fast it moves. And I tell you, I never have a first meeting in my office. Always in the evening at a bar. Okay, or if it's midday, we can meet during the break of university, but I rarely have a break at university. I simply don't have the time. So it's usually in the evening over a beer. And it works. Okay. I mean, the masters that I'm starting now, I got them all like that. Okay, the ones that I have in the masters, none of them, I met none of them I all met them in a bar. Next, because time is moving forward.
Yeah, I think this is all the questions we have, Dr. Caruana, and I think we can finish the presentation. And the Mexican Society of Physicists in Medicine would like to thank you again, Dr. Caruana, for this presentation. And we really appreciate your advices to our community as a medical physicist.
It was a pleasure talking to you guys. And if you need to have another talk or something, just send me an email. Ask Mariana to send me an email, and we'll find topics. There are many topics that one can do on leadership.
Thank you very much, Professor. Y de parte de la Sociedad Mexicana de Físicos en Medicina, les queremos agradecer a todos por su presencia en este seminario. Que tengan una excelente tarde y hasta la próxima. See you, Professor. Thank you very much again. And the certificate will be sent to your email.
Thank you very much. Ciao. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.